What are the worst fight IQ moments in history in the UFC? Well, today we're going to be taking a look at that. I've got a tier list here. I've got people all around the screen. I'm going to drag them in and I'm going to put them in the position on the tier list where I think their dumb IQ moment in a fight puts them. So without further ado, I'm Tizzer MMA. Subscribe. I'm going to be doing loads of tier lists, loads of UFC and MMA content. So sub so you don't miss a thing, and it helps support the channel as well, which is always greatly appreciated. But without further ado, let's go. First of all, we have Sean Strickland. He's going in the bottom of S tier. So S tier is obviously, you know, the more stupid ideas. And the reason being is because Sean Strickland's fight IQ is normally great until he decided to fight Alex Pereira, the two-time Glory kickboxing champion, and just stand up the entire time. There was no wrestling. There was not even an attempted takedown. There was no clinch. He just tried to stand and bang with one of basically the worst person in the world to stand and bang with. And surprise, surprise, he got Pereira left hooked within a round. It was brutal, but he deserved it. I mean, I love Sean Strickland. He's funny. But God, what did he expect doing that? Fair play to him for doing that though, because a lot of people aren't that brave. But Sean, I'm sorry, you've just earned a spot on the tier list. Moving on, Anthony Rumble Johnson. First of all, let me just say rest in peace. He's going in B tier though. This is because he tried to wrestle Daniel Cormier. I have no idea why you'd ever do that, especially when he has punch power like he does. He literally had the hardest hands in light heavyweight and probably ever really. And he decides to wrestle like the Olympic gold champion wrestler. I just don't understand that. Maybe he was suffering from CT then, but rest in peace to Anthony Johnson. But for that terrible, terrible decision where you actually maybe could have knocked him out, if you actually tried to get your range and piece him up, you're going in B tier. Sorry, Johnson. Moving on, Conor McGregor. Listen, guys, anyone who jumps guillotines is getting a place on this list. And he jumps guillotines. He jumps guillotines on Dustin Poirier in their trilogy fight. I have nothing else to say except why do all these top level lightweights throw fights by jumping guillotines? I'm sick of it. Moving on, we have Glover Teixeira. This was actually harder to watch than jumping a guillotine. Glover's going in maybe B tier for this, or actually A tier because he literally threw a fight doing it. He had Yuri basically on like the wobbliest legs I've ever seen in my entire life. He was practically like leaning against the cage, semi-unconscious on his legs, and he shoots a double leg. I mean, I get what he's doing. He was trying to change levels, but he was literally 1 or 2 shots away from winning the fight and retaining his belt. And then he ended up taking down Yuri. Then Yuri reversed it. He got on top, and then he subbed him. So, you know, that's why he's getting an A tier place. Sorry, guys, you know, I'm a big fan of Glover, but the tier list is the tier list. Moving on, we're going rapid fire today. I've just noticed that. Moving on, Ronda Rousey. She's going in B tier, and the reason being is, I know you're going to say, oh, whoa, she was a really good UFC fighter. Well, she was until she decided to stand and bang. Ronda Rousey should have literally just played the Khabib game. But she actually thought her striking was good, and as anyone who had any striking experience could show her, she was completely wrong. Holly Holm exposed her, head kicked her on the feet. Ronda was just fine, you know, with stand up until she gets finished. Kind of Sean Strickland-esque in a way. And Amanda Nunes destroyed her. So yeah, I could go on, you know, the list goes on, but the point is that Ronda Rousey stands up and then gets knocked out, okay? If she just played like Khabib, she wrestled like Khabib, she'd win every fight because she's got way better jiu-jitsu than any other woman in those divisions. Moving on, Cody Garbrandt. You're going to see. And it wasn't like a direct thing he did. It was more the fact that he got really emotional before his fights, and because he's got really fragile ego, I think. And instead of, you know, he probably could outbox a lot of these guys. But instead, he got so angry and mad at them, he actually thought he'd make it easier for them to beat him, and he dropped his hands in massive exchanges. So, you know, look at like the TJ fight. Look at the fight with what's his name? I don't know. Pedro Munoz. Look at the fight with him. He just drops his hands completely and then gets chinned. I mean, are we surprised at this point? Not quite the same against Kara France. He had his hands up here, but they were still kind of low. And it's just hard to watch Cody Garbrandt fight at this point in time. He's only ever going to beat guys who literally have no boxing skills whatsoever. Moving on, Nate Diaz, he's going in A because he actively threw a fight he could have won. He was getting absolutely dominated by Leon. He lost every minute of that fight until the last minute of round 5. He landed a massive right hand. It had Leon so hurt, and he pointed at Leon, which was mildly infuriating. But what was more infuriating, he was clinching Leon. Like, just separate, bro, and throw haymakers. You would have got him out of there. He literally couldn't defend. He just kind of shelled up. He was barely even throwing back. There was no threat for Nate, not with that iron chin he has for some reason. And, I mean, honestly, Nate just doesn't really care about fighting anymore, does he? You know, he was more worried about what he looked like and what his image was like in that moment. But I'm sorry, Nate, but you're earning your place on the tier list for that. Moving on, we have Michael Johnson. He's going in C2 as well because he jumped a guillotine on Khabib. Obviously, that isn't really going to work against Khabib because he's, you know, the grappling phenom, and was a really bad idea. And then Michael Johnson ended up getting beaten on the ground by Khabib. Surprise, surprise. So yeah, that's all I have to say about Michael Johnson. Also, that knockout recently, I'm sorry, bro, that was really hard to watch. RIP Michael Johnson's chin. Moving on, Kelvin Gastelum. I'm going to put him in B because he kind of threw a fight. He wobbled Israel Adesanya. And then he shot a double leg, which is actually, that's really frustrating. We're putting him in A. He could have beat a young Izzy when Izzy was like really entertaining. They were having a massive scrap. Drops Izzy in the 5th, and then he shoots a double leg. I don't know what it is with fighters shooting double legs when they rock someone, but it really needs to stop. Because it's obviously just been drilled into them by, like, you know, years of training, and it's kind of impacting them now. It's kind of actually denying them finishes. They're just so instinctively going for takedowns at what they consider the right moment. They actually realise, hang on, that wasn't the right moment. I should have just kept it on the feet there and won. Moving on, Michael Chandler. This isn't really a specific thing. It's more just Michael Chandler in general. His fight style, he could probably win basically 90% of every fight he takes, but he just throws fights. Like, he doesn't mean to, and he's just trying to entertain people, which I do appreciate. But for me, Michael, and for your family, it'd probably be more entertaining if you won the fight and brung home double the money on the win check, on the win bonus. Like, against Oliveira, you know, he won that first round, and then he went in all guns blazing in the second, and then he got clipped, which I'm not too mad about because, let's be honest, that was a good shot. Not much you could have done about that. But it's just like in the Justin Gaethje fight, you probably could have beat Justin if you played your cards a bit better there. You know, there wasn't a point where you outright had won the fight and you just couldn't mess it up anymore, and you did. But, you know, like shooting double legs and lifting people up, like, it's impractical. You're just gassing yourself. And it doesn't even help you get a better wrestling position. You should have just shot a double leg and drove through it and tried to get him on the ground and get into side control and just land elbows or something like that. But all I can say is he's making it entertaining, so we have to put some respect on his name for that. Moving on, we have the MMA judges. What more can I say about these guys except they're a bunch of clowns. And they must rig fights, otherwise they just clearly aren't watching the same fight as us. I don't have anything else to say about it. I mean, I could name a million robberies, but obviously you got Jones versus Reyes is one of them. There's just been a lot of crazy robberies over the years. I'm not even going to get started, but they have the worst IQ in the UFC collectively. There's a few more than others. I'm not going to name names, but everyone knows what I'm talking about. Cyril Gane. This one still annoys me to this day. He could have beaten Ngannou, and he probably would have never lost a joke. I don't know. There would have just been a different timeline of events, and we never know what might have happened to Cyril Gane after that. But he probably would have been in a better position. It came down to the final round. It was 2-2. He had top control. I'm pretty sure he was in top mount nearly, and he decided to roll for a leg on Francis Ngannou. And honestly, I have no idea why. If he won that round, he would have won the fight. All he had to do was stay on top. He didn't even have to land strikes. Just stay on top. He had it with the fight won, and he went for a leg, and he tried to get a leg lock, and obviously he just put himself on bottom, and then Francis won the 5th round, and therefore he lost the belt. So it's a hard to watch fight, and that's Cyril Gane's second championship title loss, which is even crazier considering how good his striking is. He's just grappling, and his fight IQ seems to suck nowadays. Ryan Hall, I mean, you know, you're going in B tier, bro. Like, your entire strategy is just crawl across the floor and Mirani roll. It isn't practical, and anyone in the top 15 will KO him, and anyone below that still has a fairly good chance. I mean, you know, Ilya Topuria is a good example. He's lost many times, but he somehow scrapes decisions and occasionally gets a submission, which is just crazy. Anyone that loses to that style should be cut from the UFC immediately. Moving on, Peter Yan. You're going in C tier, bro, okay? Because I don't care what... Actually, you're going in B tier. And the reason being is this guy didn't just lose a fight with what he did with kneeing Aljamain Sterling in the face. He basically threw his career away. Because he got such tough matchups after that. And then he lost to Sterling. And he was going to win that fight. Like, I'm not a big Peter Yan fan. I'm not the biggest fan of him. I'm not a really big Sterling fan either. But I'm going to be honest. He was going to win that fight, okay? Sterling was breaking really badly. He was probably going to get finished within a few rounds or lose a decision. But the point is, if Peter Yan won that fight, Sterling would have never rematched him, so he never would have lost. And then he would have beat Sandhagen, defended his belt, and Merab would have still been a long way off the belt and wouldn't have beaten him. So basically, that's the reason that he's lost. And then he would have never shot Sean O'Malley either, because that was a contender fight, and he wouldn't have been a contender. He would have been the champion. It would have been Sterling instead. But it's crazy, or maybe like, you know, Chito Vera. But anyway, it's crazy that he's on a 3-fight losing streak. And honestly, I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know where if he's going to go to 1 now. But just for Knee and Aljo having such a big impact on your life as a whole, not even your career, but like your life, because it's impacting how much money you're making, you're going in B tier. Sorry, bro. And then finally, this is a short list. So, you know, we're just keeping it short and sweet. To top it off, we have Curtis Blades. And you're probably thinking, well, why? Curtis Blades has never made a bad decision. Well, he actually kind of has. And the decision is that he wins a fight on the feet. So, you know, he'll win a fight against one of the low-level heavyweights on the feet. He'll finish them. Or he'll piece them up, take them down, and then finish them. And then he thinks he's Tyson Fury. And then he'll go into his next fight and still thinking he's Tyson Fury, and he's thinking, I'm going to stand and bang with this guy. I'm not wrestling. You know, I'm a good striker. And then he'll proceed to get knocked out within one round. And he's done it about 5 times now. Sergey Pavlovich, Ngannou. So, yeah, it's just crazy. And then he'll win a fight. So, yeah, I mean, you know, Curtis, your hands aren't that bad, bro. But your wrestling's a lot better. If you wrestle, you'd probably win a lot more of your fights. I mean, I was going to say he could have beaten Sergey, but he couldn't because he actually shot and then got stuffed. So he did that too late. But Curtis needs to stop thinking he's Tyson Fury after he wins a fight by knocking out a heavyweight who no one's ever heard of before, who isn't even in the top 15 or isn't even in the top 10. But yeah, so that's the list, guys. We're not going to have too many guys in DNF because it doesn't really make sense on this tier list, to be honest. But I just want to thank you guys for watching. This was a quick upload just so I could get out another daily video for you guys. Subscribe so you don't miss any content whatsoever, and it really helps the channel out. Obviously, we're just past 250 subs, so thanks so much for that. And leave a comment on who else I need to add to this list, because obviously I can't have remembered everything. I could have only included a few, and I'm keeping it short and sweet as well. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya.